Good morning, everyone. It feels a little strange that you all obviously took the first seats available, so you're all sitting at this end of the room, or a lot of you are sitting at this end of the room. And maybe with the way traffic is coming into Hartford, as more people come in, we'll ask them to sort of balance us out. But we'll try to make everyone feel welcome at home, as we usually do every year at the Connecticut Housing Coalition Annual Conference. I'm Vin Tufo. I'm the chairman of the Connecticut Housing Coalition Board. I'm also, in my real life, my day job is as the CEO of Charter Oak Communities, which is a community development organization way down in Stamford. What we have and what you represent are the folks in the housing community development industry in Connecticut that are constantly thinking of improving, increasing, and advocating for practices that meet the needs and help to support and empower the neediest and the most deserving families in Connecticut. And not only do I thank you for that, certainly all of the staff and the board of the Connecticut Housing Coalition thanks you, but I think each other. When you come together with a session like this, I think you get a chance to understand and recognize the strength that you have in each other. And that's what we want to do today as much as possible, is for you to feel and to be reminded that your strength really comes from within, and from within an industry in Connecticut that is increasingly growing stronger. One of the speakers that we'll have during the luncheon session, Yvonne Klein, our housing commissioner. I'm not sure if Yvonne's here yet, but we have certainly other folks from the Department of Housing, from CHFA, from HUD already in the room. And what we've seen in Connecticut over the last several years is a growing strength of the community development sector, if you will, a gathering strength. For many of us that have been doing this work for a lot longer, and some of you have been doing it for longer than I have, the 20 years that I've been involved, we've come through lots of sort of good times and lean times. You may all recall, or you don't want to recall, that before the Malloy administration, at least, there was a very long drought where it seemed like housing was very much on the back burner, if it was on any burner for the state, for policymakers, for appropriators. That situation seemed to change, not overnight, but certainly the signs of that change occurred very early on. And what we've not enjoyed, but what we've been able to gain from this support, this level of support, is an increasingly stronger industry. The number of new housing units that have been created, the number of units that are in the pipeline, the properties that have been preserved, and then the bold initiative and steps to end chronic homelessness are well established, ending chronic veterans homelessness last year, and then being well on our way to ending chronic homelessness in the state of Connecticut now. And we never would have been able to say that several years ago. Probably wouldn't have been able to even recognize the challenge, but recognize it we did. And organizations like the Partnership for Strong Communities, the Coalition to Homelessness are incredibly important in doing that. On the sort of the flip side, and you know, every challenge or every sort of obstacle creates a opportunity as well. We're saddened, and many of you have heard that the work that was being done under the Housing Coalition to support resident engagement through PHRN, the Publicly Assisted Housing Resident Network, has been curtailed as a result of budget cuts in Hartford. The PHRN was heavily dependent, not necessarily by choice, but by by necessity on a funding stream from the state, and that was fairly well eliminated. There have been some other, there's some other backfilling going on, but at least in the short term, what we've had to do with the coalition is to, unfortunately, say goodbye to two longtime community organizing professionals, Kim McLaughlin and Les Williams. So we really want to make their work, honor their work, and make sure that what we do and what we do together is to go forward and continue that important mission of the Housing Coalition. So as I said, Yvonne is going to speak at noon, and we are going to be joined by a national personality, I guess, and many of you don't know the name, but you may know his work. His name is Alex Kotlowitz. He is a journalist by profession, but I call him, or I refer to him as kind of an impact journalist, in that what he's trying to do is really open up and change people's minds and perceptions with the investigative journalism that he has done. He's written many, many articles for Wall Street Journal and other national publications. He is a documentary film producer, and most importantly, or I think most significantly, impactfully, he's written several books. The one that really kind of caught my attention, we'll talk about this when we do the introduction, is called There Are No Children Here. It's a euphemism for the society that exists in communities of poverty, communities of impacted poverty, where essentially childhood comes and goes very, very quickly, and then the realities of that life become all too challenging. So we'll talk more about that. You'll certainly hear from Alex, who will say it much better than I can. But we thought it would be a very interesting way to present something that we're all very familiar with, but in kind of bringing it together. The other things that I'll just mention now is that if you've looked at the program, you know that the conference organizing, or the conference program this year is completely different than what we've done in the past. So I know it's early. I know some of you have had your coffee, and maybe it doesn't bear saying, but if you haven't, if you're still waking up, if you're still on I-91 coming up here, what you need to know is that all of the breakout sessions are going to be in the morning, meaning that all of the stuff, all of the content of the conference is going to be between now and your eating lunch. The reason why we did that is, first of all, to give people a wide choice if possible, but also to give you some freedom to take advantage of some of the other opportunities that we have in the afternoon. What we also found, I guess, is the afternoon, people tend to drift off a little bit. See a lot of people on their cell phones, a lot of people kind of maybe thinking about going back to work. So we thought that we'd kind of stuff everything into the morning. Then we'll have a very compact plenary session around lunch with Yvonne and Alex as our speakers. And then here's the last thing, and I really hope I don't get a lot of flack for this. It wasn't my decision, but you're not going to get dessert. Just kidding. You are going to get dessert, but you're going to come to a networking reception immediately outside, where we're going to have essentially a sort of a sweet networking session where we're going to serve dessert and other things like that. And that'll be an opportunity from about 1 to 2, 2:30 for you to be able to catch up with all of your colleagues, get a chance to see Alex. He's going to do some book signings, I guess, and then get a chance to get on your way and maybe back to work, or maybe not back to work, because it's kind of a nice day out there. So that's it from me. Now what I'd like to do is to introduce our executive director. Now many of you know, and you certainly have read and been advised that when Betsy Crum left us last year, right about this time, the organization went through a very exhaustive search for a new executive director that would take this organization from where it has been and where it fortunately has risen to under Betsy's leadership into the future. And what we did is we looked not only in Connecticut, but really far and wide to find somebody who brought a combination of talent, ability, and promise that would help to really help us develop and pursue a vision for the Connecticut Housing Coalition. And we were so fortunate in being able to find Florence Villano. Florence is I don't want to say veteran, because typically women of a certain age don't like to be called a veteran anything. But what Florence has is 3 decades of experience in just about every aspect of community development, public service, government, quasi-government, advocacy, lobbying, and just about all of the things that create the knowledge base to continue to keep Housing Coalition going with a strong foundation and to help to develop and pursue a vision for the future that I think we're all going to be proud of. So Florence is going to say a few words. What we'd like to do is to try to get started on time with our sessions, to stay on time. Oh, I just got Florence is going to introduce Jim, right? Oh, I'm going to introduce Jim. Okay, but first Florence is going to say a few words, and then I'll be back. So welcome Florence Villano, please.
Good morning. I'm delighted to echo Vin's opening welcome to the Coalition's annual conference. I begin by expressing my thanks to the conference's major sponsors who are listed in the agenda and also on our PowerPoint. And a special thank you to our Diamond supporters, City Community Development and TD Charitable Foundation. We are also grateful to the many, many people who make this conference a success. As time is so short this morning, I cannot acknowledge all of you. Nonetheless, you have all our gratitude. This has been a year of transition for the Connecticut Housing Coalition. In December, I became the new executive director. I won't go into my background because Vin has done that for me, so thank you, Vin. And Vin has also talked to you about our other most visible transition at the Coalition, which is the loss of funding for the PHRN program, and as a result, the regrettable loss of both Kim and Les, our 2 dedicated staff members. We and the public housing residents they served miss them. But what remains the same is our commitment to our guiding principles. At the Coalition, we believe that housing is the hub. For families to succeed, it is essential that they have a stable community, good health care leading to good health outcomes, access to a good education, and jobs that offer a living wage, allowing for stability and growth. Those of us who are lucky to come from safe, stable communities know how fortunate we are. It goes without saying that everyone should have the same advantage. We continue to be committed to targeting housing resources for those with the lowest income. Currently, it is estimated that 92,000 affordable units are needed to meet the needs of extremely low-income households in Connecticut. The state continues its commitment to rehabbing the state public housing portfolio, but even with those efforts, we continue to lose units. Over time, we have lost approximately 6,000 units. The loss of those units compounds the existing deficit in affordable units. This trend must stop. One of the great personal satisfactions I have had since coming on board is the opportunity to join the collaborative work of Reaching Home, known as Opening Doors Connecticut. As you know, last year, Connecticut was the first state to end veterans' homelessness, and all hands are on deck as we near our Zero 2016 goal to end chronic homelessness by the end of this year. Everyone has a part to play in shaping the future of housing. My experience with the Choice Neighborhood program in Meriden deepened my belief in the need for us to come out of our silos and work together. One of my goals for the Housing Coalition is to expand our membership to include those from labor, education, and healthcare, just to name a few, as it will take all of our efforts to achieve our common goal of decent, safe, and affordable housing for everyone. Governor Malloy and his administration over the past 6 years have demonstrated their deep commitment to affordable housing with $1 billion in new capital financing for the creation of new housing and the revitalization of current affordable stock. We are all keenly aware of the looming state budget deficits, which will make the jobs of all of us more difficult. We must all work together and cannot lose sight of those we serve who are most in need. It remains the Coalition's commitment to continue to find ways to create needed affordable units, maintain existing units, and provide necessary services to our low-income families. It will not be easy, but I am convinced we are all up to the challenge and dedicated to success. Finally, I want to end by thanking the small but mighty Coalition staff who have been welcoming and tremendously supportive as we have made the transition together. They all deserve a shout out, but today I have to recognize Jenna Ferguson, our Outreach and Event Coordinator, for her outstanding work on this conference. Thank you, Jenna. We have planned great workshops for you, wonderful speakers at lunch, and to cap it off, a delicious dessert reception. Have a wonderful day, but please remember that workshops are back-to-back, so it is important for the first workshop session to end on time so that the next workshop organizers can get in and we can move things along. Thank you again. Take care.
Thanks, Florence. And thank you for your shout out to the Housing Coalition staff. It's a small but mighty, but lean, but really focused staff that does the important work, not just of organizing this conference, but of doing training institutes, sending out tremendous waves of information, doing advocacy for us in Hartford and elsewhere. And they do deserve not only your applause, but perhaps when you see them today at the conference, you can just introduce yourselves, put a name to a face. Sometimes that's really great, really helpful. And then you can see them again at the dessert networking session. So now I'd like to introduce Jim Reed. And I just met Jim this morning. He is the new or the current regional administrator for HUD, for the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Many of you remember Barbara Fields. Barbara was the regional administrator for a few years. Typically what HUD does, and at least over the last several years, has reached into the world of local housing and HUD-supported housing to really elevate one of us, some individual from the region, from the New England region, that can really help to be our liaison and our local advocate, if you will, the ear to the ground with what's happening in the region. It's a really important position. It's one of those positions also where for the regional administrator, and I'm not to put Jim on the spot, but it is what you make it, right? I think it really is something that has tremendous potential. It's another opportunity for you to put a name to a face. In other words, HUD in the personage of the regional administrator. I think what you're going to hear from Jim, who's the former executive director of the Newport, Rhode Island Housing Authority, that there's a lot of important information, a lot of important communication that can develop with HUD, and really opportunity for us to continue to work with our federal partners as we work to expand and preserve housing here in the New England region. So I'm going to let Jim say a few words. Hopefully he's going to be around at least this morning for the conference. If you see him, please introduce yourself and let's give him a Connecticut welcome. So Jim Reed.
Good morning, all. Good morning. I shared your anxiousness when Vin mentioned that comment about no dessert. Vin, thank you very much. I appreciate the kind words and the invitation to Florence as your executive director here. All my best. Let me tell you a little bit about me. Vin started to tell you that I was an executive director at the Housing Authority in Newport, Rhode Island. I've been in the industry for 4 decades now. I want you to look at me and feel that I'm one of you. I want you to look at me when I am in our meetings, whether they're in the Boston Regional Office, the Connecticut Field Office, or they're in DC. I want you to know that you have an advocate. Already there have been times where there's been discussions in headquarters, and the discussions have been policy thinking and changes that would affect each of us that are in this room. They heard from the other side of the table from an insider now. I take that very serious. They have listened to me already. I would like to think, better understand what you do day in and day out. And we appreciate your efforts. But let me start by saying that Suzanne Piacentini wanted to be here today. She's our field office director here in the Connecticut Hartford office. But she is down in headquarters and in meetings. And the meetings are designed around the global initiative that HUD has, which you've heard in the past and will continue to hear, place-based work, bringing all of us together and reaching out to those that aren't in the room today to come to the table. We all represent the same customers, and we all champion for the low-income folks. Here in Connecticut, the coalition and each of you have done remarkable work. We know what that has been thus far, and we know the challenges that we have moving forward. I'm here to say that we want to be even a stronger partner. Just in the New England region, my office is responsible for $14 billion a year. And in Connecticut, that's $3.5 billion. Now, coming from a housing authority, and now being the regional administrator, the difference is, and the only difference is, there's another comma in the dollars. In me, you have someone that wants to help each of you. I will be around for a while this morning, but I want you to know, please take my invitation seriously. Suzanne is probably the best field office director in all the 10 regions at HUD. I've said it before, and I will continue to say it again. I want you to know that your field office here in Hartford has a group of the best. I have been through each state. I live in Newport, by the way, but work in Boston. And I have traveled and met quite a few people in each state in this region, some of which have been colleagues in the past and friends in the past, and it's been great to see them. And some of them are allowing me to meet newbies, people that have been in their neighborhoods and in their communities working hard. All right, I get it, you get it, we get it. I think what's important is to call upon us to help you if it's something that you need to think outside the box. Not everything is about money. Money helps, but creative, innovative solutions and collaborations are what makes us work good. If you look at the logo and the name behind me, it's been around for years. It would be months, if not years, to list all of the accomplishments that everyone has done through the coalition. If you're standing where I am right now and look out, I see a bunch of Americans that look to help fellow Americans. And sometimes some are more needy, sometimes they're more desperate, and sometimes they're homeless. And any combination of the three fits. We look to help with development activity. We look to help with services components. We look to sharing best practices. We simply look at not necessarily the mandates, but as much as the work and what I call takeaways. What did we accomplish? It's outcomes versus output. Everything I'm talking about this morning, I'm seeing the heads nod yes. We have a challenge this year and going into next year. And our challenge is, how are we going to help the folks that are in affordable housing, and we continue to support them, make them more economically self-sufficient, and how are we going to help the people that are on the wait list? How are we going to help people that are homeless? Speaking of homeless, your governor gets it. Governor Malloy gets it. You were the first state in the country, under his leadership, to eliminate veterans' homelessness. And now they're working on chronic homelessness. I was recently on a conference call with the governor, Secretary Castro, my boss, and 24 mayors from across the country. And the 24 mayors were listening to my boss, but they were more keenly listening to the story of Governor Malloy and how he assembled the right folks in the right room to go after a challenge and fix it. It was pretty astonishing. Being in the industry for 4 decades, it was right here. You could sense and you could feel the passion that the governor had, and you could understand he had all the right people at the right places to help the folks that were in need. Because Suzanne's not here, David Fury, our general counsel here out of the Hartford office. David, if you'd raise your hand, I want everybody just to know where David is. David is going to be retiring soon. We're going to ask him to stay on, so it's a little bit later. But David has served the department and served you and served others for 36 years. And David, I want you to know that you are going to be missed. The work that you do, the passion that you have for the individuals we serve, aside from all of the other stuff that you have to do, all right? David is a person that gets it. David is a person that looks to say, well, you know what, maybe everybody is entitled to a second chance, and maybe we need to help, whether it's they're being represented from legal services or have no representation at all, and they are calling the HUD regional office to say, what do I do? Bless you. Again. You're not allergic to dessert, I hope. David, we're proud of what you do. Your family is proud of what you do. I'm sure you are proud of what you do, but you're a humble person. And you're not a person that goes out and says, look what I did, all right? Your legacy at the department is lasting. You have put some things in place that are rock solid, and you have put enthusiasm in an office that takes that enthusiasm and tries to do much, much, much more. So David, I appreciate you if you join me in congratulating David on his retirement. Don't wait, David, this isn't the last that you're going to hear. Today it will be, but there'll be a testimonial, and there'll be a little bit of a roast, and there'll be some other things. Let me just quickly tell you what the main priorities are from the department. We're working on homelessness. Incidentally, the city of Hartford is helping. They've just incorporated in their voucher program a preference for homeless individuals. That's a noble step. A new rule that was issued on Tuesday of this week, gender identity. There's a final rule that has been issued. That is about equal access and protection of those that self-identify their gender identity. Irregardless of what their license may say, male, female, they can self-identify. I want you to know that as this administration transitions to the next administration, we are very, very busy putting things in place that not only we continue to sprint with the work between now and the end of the administration, but we are certain that we are going to put things in place that are going to continue programs that have been demonstrated as not only being helpful but successful and financially feasible. I want you to know that we talk with the Secretary weekly, sometimes more frequently than that. You should know that the Secretary wants us not to glide, but to sprint. And I'm here to tell you that I know firsthand, 14-hour days are nothing. As I am going to be reaching out to some of you or many of you till the end of this administration, I want you to know that it's because we're sprinting together to make sure that when this administration changes hands, that the good work that the department has done will continue. There's a new proposed lead rule. Secretary Castro joined Senator Reid in Rhode Island. What we've done after 17 years is we've brought our standards to the lead level standards of the CDC now. Because there are some young children in HUD-assisted properties that have lead levels higher than the CDC's threshold. You've heard and will continue to hear about affirmatively furthering fair housing. Big deal. It's law. HUD has been assigned the responsibility for carrying out and acting on the provisions within the law. We are working with 2 municipalities and communities here in Connecticut, Bridgeport and Danbury. We're working with them to do their assessments, and their assessments, the first round of assessments for New England are due October of 2017. They're a lot of work, but they focus on us collectively saying, let's take a step back, look at the communities, look at where pockets of low-income folks are residing, and look if there's other opportunities for them in the community. And let me finish by saying, HUD is your partner. Jim Reed is a colleague of yours. We are happy to help. I am happy to help. And it is important that we continue the great relationships that we have and build upon the work that we do to ensure that we help everybody that comes to us for need. Have a great conference, and thank you very much for the invitation.
Thanks, Jim. That was a lot of great content and a wonderful way to really begin today's event as we really start to look through the lens of our partners at the public level, in this case specifically the federal level. I'm glad Jim. No, I'm not glad, but I actually am happy that Jim saved me the trouble of giving David Fury the recognition that he absolutely deserves. David is general counsel for the HUD field office here in Hartford. Many of you don't know him by face or even by name. He's one of these sort of people that works in the background in most cases until you're ready to really document a deal and then get to closing and then certainly resolve difficult, very challenging, and even very unusual legal matters. For me, David's always been the personality of the HUD field office. Directors come and go, but the office of the general counsel has always seemed to be there. So I'm personally going to miss David a lot, and I've got to find out where he's going to be playing golf after he retires so that we can spend some quality time together. But I think it's really great. I think what Jim did is remind us that the folks here at HUD are wonderful partners, wonderful people. I've personally done a number of one-of-a-kind deals, and they've never flinched from that. And I think that's really what's going to keep our business going, keep our work happening. So I couldn't be happier. I couldn't be more proud of our relationship with David. So hopefully it's going to be a real great next phase in your life, Dave. But you're going to have to work on that slice, otherwise we're not going to be able to keep playing golf together. We have pushed back the start by about 15 or 20 minutes, so we're going to keep the same slots, but just push them back on the clock so that we're not going to forego any of the conference content in the breakout sessions, so you'll just have to wait for your lunch and then, of course, your dessert a little bit later. So to echo Jim's words, who made it very clear that our work together has to continue to accelerate and that we're going to sprint up the mountain towards the finish line. What you're going to do now is sprint to the first session and hopefully get some great content, and have a great day, everyone.